This is Ohio State part two. But basically, what Ohio State did was they paid for their best players to stay, got them all to buy back in, took some of the best players from other teams. I'm not a big fan of that. Quinshawn Junkins had no business going to Ohio State from Ole Miss. What was the safety out of Alabama? He's the top of the sport. What's his name? Um, can't think of his name, but you know, he had no even with a coaching change. Caleb Downs, no business going to Ohio State. It's not good for college football when you see players of that caliber leaving their program to go to another school. And this is enters into the portal conversation, which is a little bit different. I'll have thoughts on the portal, but basically, Ohio State within the rules, they did what they needed to do. Probably tampered, but they got the quarterback from Kansas State. I think there were rumors about the thought was maybe he wasn't going to be the starter at Kansas State. Yet here he goes to Ohio State, and you get Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator. It's a match made in heaven. But the bottom line is Ohio State was loaded all over the place. The one area where they were a little bit limited, they had Ohio State. They had not Ohio State issues. They had offensive line issues. They had some injuries there, but everywhere else they had better talent than every other team. I think maybe going into the year I would have been like, okay, Georgia might be the one team, maybe Texas. Those were the two other teams that I said from a talent standpoint. I mean, if you know ball, if you watch ball, and you would just observe the players on the field. Going into the season, I'm trying to think, was there any other teams outside of those three that you'd be like, who's been stockpiling talent? And but to me though, Ohio State with Ryan Day, I mean, they were very proven. Other than the fact they just couldn't beat Michigan for whatever reason. But here's my problem. All right, this enters into the problem with the expanded playoff. It is going to become very predictable if there is not balance brought to roster construction. It used to be recruiting, now it's roster construction. If we're going to get if Georgia and Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, LSU, if these select programs are going to be able to stockpile talent using the portal, paying more money. Now, if they recruit guys in house, I don't know what you do about that. I do think that with NIL, it has leveled the recruiting across the board a little bit. Some of the second tier teams can get veteran players from the portal, from smaller schools to try to level the playing field some. But Ohio State had a loaded roster. Now, people can say none of the teams this year would have beaten teams from the previous era. The bottom line is we don't know. These teams this year, they knew they had margin. Ohio State knew they could lose 2 games, but they also knew they had the best roster. And I think they knew inside that building, if we turn it on at the right time, we will wreck everyone else. And they did. They absolutely did. Nobody was going to beat them. College football, historically, it rewarded the best team, not the team with the best roster. That has changed in this modern